Welcome to Academy Live with your Shinjin Countess. For today's course, we'll be checking out practice mode maps and going over combat basics that are important to know for any offline or online game. Unlike the previous segments, this course doesn't require you to watch courses 1 and 2. However, it is always advised to follow these courses in numerical order if you're new to the series. So, to run down on today's course, we're going to be going over what practice mode even is, and how we can use it to fine-tune our teams offline versus the AI. While we're exploring the practice mode areas, we will also be going over combat basics, some familiar and unfamiliar to those who have FFT experience, and even include some really important tricks to use that will be very handy during our AI battles. Alright, so I'm going to hop on over here and bring up Countess's stream. Give me 1 second, make sure this is working correctly. Okay, looks like we're good. Alright, Countess, you are up. If you don't mind heading on over to the world map. Appreciate you, thank you. And by the way, for any of the viewers, either on Discord or on YouTube, if you have any questions about any of the content that we're going over this evening, maybe even some of the content that we've already explored in previous course 1 or course 2, feel free to throw them in the chat. I'll be kind of keeping an eye out in between and would love to answer any questions you all have. Alright, let's hop in. So, what exactly is practice mode? So practice mode is tactically exclusive, in which we use the Arguay Woods map in practice 1. So if you mind highlighting that real quick, Countess. Thank you. And we also have a second map, the Uguay, which is named Practice 2. It's all the way up top. Appreciate it. We use these maps have custom tailored AI teams, which are designed and mined for the standard format, which is our competition ready format that we use. If you've watched For Glory or any of the past full tournament or cups that we've had before, standard is the gold standard that we play on. So these maps include AI teams that are kind of built for that, so they're kind of built around the same restriction. Ideally, they have the same limitations and the items that player has. They only have 1 unique and then 4 generics like the player has as well. So things like that. So try to kind of give you a little bit of familiarity with what to expect if you want to really take on the PvP world and really want to try some tactics PvP out. Anyways. So, one thing to note, in case this is the first time for anyone that's watching this and just like, how these maps work. So, it actually kind of depends on where you're coming in at. So, where Countess has Ram's position, which is Dorter by default, if she goes to the right, which would be practice 1, and she comes in from the left side of it, you actually can encounter a rare. It's not guaranteed, but you can encounter a rare 5 unique character team, which is pretty cool. It kind of ups the ante with like giving a little harder challenge. And keep in mind that these practice 1 and practice 2 maps and teams, they're solely for testing. They're not, a full expectation of what to expect when you go up against another player, because players have a large variety of different things that they can build and use. But again, these are for means to be able to try different things out. And so the 5 uniques is another way to kind of branch out and kind of get a feel for something that's a little special, but it also gives you a little bit of a prelude to how the 4v4 All-Stars format works, which is actually nothing but uniques. So a little cool little thing. I just wanted to highlight that. And just because we're talking about practice 1, Countess, if you mind, can you scroll up to Yadro, whatever it's called, right up top? And then right to the right. Perfect, thank you. So if you come in from this angle and then go into practice 2 from its right side, then you also have a chance to encounter a 5 unique team here as well. And each of these 5 unique teams have a few little differences, and there's also different encounters that you can run into. So again, just wanted to highlight that. But anyways, we will be using these maps to cover some of the combat basics, and also we'll have Countess a little bit later actually detail a couple fights, depending on where we're time is sending it, on how these maps work. Alright, so before we get into doing all that showcasing, we're actually going to really go more into the combat basics, which is really the fundamental part of this course for this evening. Jonas, if you don't mind, can you go ahead and load up a practice 1 battle? Whichever direction you want to go. Alright. And the first thing we're going to actually talk about is deployment. So, before I get any further, I just want to make sure that there isn't any questions or anything on the stream. Double check real quick. Okay, looking good. Alright, cool. Let's move on. Okay, so now when we have our first battle ready, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to deploy, which is in normal fashion. You can't start a fight until you've gotten your units down the field. And we're going to have 5 units to deploy. In standard, you always have 5 units, and we're going to treat this as such, so we're going to deploy 5 as well. For these units, we're going to kind of take something that we did discuss in Course 1 and make sure that all of them have Gear Source Protect Shell, which Countess has actually got a couple teams set up for us for this evening. So Countess, you don't mind, we'll go ahead and start laying down those units real quick. And while you're doing that, I'm going to talk about something else. So while Countess is getting situated, we're going to keep things simple. One thing I want to keep in mind is that when you have certain roles, something we mentioned in Course 2, your row of where you deploy those units matters. So, for example, if you have a support or a medic role, you tend to want to have those in the back row, right? Because the front row can shield them from certain types of attacks. Like if your opponent is able to get, or be able to get gun range, for example, which is 8 range. If you have like a knight, for example, in front of that unit, that medic or support, your opponent can't target that unit behind them with a gun. It's a straight shot. So you can use them to kind of body block a little bit. And that stuff really does matter, especially when you're going up against a potential blitz-style team that is capable of trying to aggress within the first action or two. So where you deploy your units does matter a lot. The same can be even said with how you apply your front row. So, for example, like this Agris and Knight here, these are more than likely bruiser or burst type setups. And so how you want to do it is you want those units to be in the front. They are much more healthier units that can sustain damage. Agris is naturally a very bulky, unique character, so she's able to take a lot of hits up front. And the same go for Knights with their innate HP boost. They have a lot higher base HP than a lot of other units. Keeping in mind that base HP, or excuse me, your HP is a form of mitigation, because without HP, that unit's dead, right? So having a little extra bulk in the front row definitely can help absorb any potential early game attacks, so you're able to keep your strategy moving without fear of having to be on the back burner right then and there. And all, of course, is subject to your team, your opponent's team, and the strategy behind both players. So a lot of those things can be variable, but I just want to highlight that. That's really important stuff. So, Ken, let's just go ahead and move on. So if you don't mind, press start, and we'll get this show on the road. Now, depending on how fast Countess units are, this might take a second, but we're going to wait till she gets her turn. Eventually, she might get the very first turn here, or she might have to might have to wait a couple turns depending on how fast the AI is. Oh, look at that. That's funny. She actually did get the special encounter team, unique encounter team here, so she'll have a little harder time here, but I think she can handle it. But we're gonna talk about some things, some more tips before we really get into the fight here. So Balthier's going to go first. Let's go ahead and see what he pulls off here. Alright, followed by Merrick. Got that sweet athletics proc. Moving to 5 or more tiles gives you +1 power and magic. Awesome. Okay. Now we've got Countess's turn. So what we're going to highlight now is we're going to go over the turn list. So Countess has already brought that up. But, you know, honestly, this is something that's a little weird. So I've come across a couple of people who actually didn't know this was even a thing. It's very obscure to get to this list. The game doesn't really highlight or have any like little help menus or any means to get to it. So, Countess, if you don't mind, can you back up just a notch and just kind of detail how you did that? So you close the menu out. There's no action menu. And then, did you press start? Yes. You press start, or excuse me, not start, triangle, and that brings up this list: the turn list, the unit list, and the options. So this is the first means to being able to get to the turn list. This is a very important thing to highlight, so make sure if you're taking notes, this is one thing you want to really keep in mind. So once you go into the turn list, if you don't mind. So see here we have a list of unit names. So Pastry is obviously the acting unit, so she's on number 1, and then Strudel, Tart, Pie, and Agrius. Love the names, by the way. So Pastry's going to be acting now, and then it's going to be followed by Strudel and then Tart. So I think if you press the A button or the X button on your controller on Pastry, it should go to your name, right? Or highlight the cursor. Yep. And if you press back, it jumps to Strudel. And then if you don't mind showing Tart one more time, appreciate it. So you can also use this to pinpoint where these units are on the field with the cursor jumping to those units. Another important aspect, because this allows you to kind of figure out, well, if you foresee a threat on your opponent's team, right? You can use this to kind of figure out where they are on the map, because you may not be able to keep up with the unit names and stuff, or maybe they're using a custom name, which you can do through the Warriors Guild. So it's really important to use that to kind of figure out where people are, and even more so when we get into the fight later. Also, even where like abilities and like certain AoEs are being cast as well, because that's going to be very important too. So there's actually another way to highlight the turn list. So we're going to actually go through the ability list this time. If you don't mind, can you bring up the action menu? Alright, so if you go to Act and then select anything other than attack, for the most part. And you notice how we have all these abilities, right? So if you press right on the D-pad, you can bring up the turn list this way. And what it also is displaying is borrow time is immediate, or it's turn 1, because it is an immediate cast. So it's showing that it's going to be cast right away. And then, as we've seen earlier, Strudel goes second and Tart goes third, as we had already seen through the turn list. And this is subject to change dynamically based on conditions. So what you see right now may be different by the time Strudel or Tart goes, or even if Alma or Beowulf goes. Anything that players do can change this timeline up. So it's always important to kind of keep an eye on it. You don't have to do it every turn, but it's really important to always keep a keen eye on this, because this is really, really important information. It's a very valuable and campaign, and it's even more valuable in melee mode going up against another player. So as we've seen here, we can use this to also bring up the turn list. If you're not sure, especially if you're casting, if you're using abilities that have a charge time, like black magics or white magics, it's really important to use this list first to figure out where it's actually firing in between, where your friendlies are, where's the enemy, which enemy's going next, things like that. Because, for example, relatively speaking, if Countess had, let's say, was charging up a Cura, right? So Cura isn't an insta-cast, it's a 2-tick spell. If she was trying to cast this early, very, very likely it'd be somewhere around turn 6, probably, turn 6 to turn 8, maybe even turn 9. And that's because the opposing units haven't fully gone yet either. Okay, so that's really important, because if she casts that too late, Beowulf has a potential chance to reach her, and then can use the Spellblade skill that can like disable her or put her to sleep and stop that cast from going off, which can be really vital when she needs it. So again, it's really important to use this action turn list, or excuse me, ability turn list, just as much as we showed earlier with using, like, closing up the main and pressing triangle and then going to the turn list. There's actually one more way to do this. So if you don't mind, you can close out all the menus real quick. Thank you. So there is another form of actually accessing the turn list that isn't, again, it's not visible, but knowledge is power. So if you press start, and then you press it again, you see how the cursor is jumping, right? It's jumping to the same exact units that was shown in the turn list order, showing in the row. This is probably, arguably, the strongest feature you can use outside of the occasional, like, closing up the menus and then pressing triangle. The reason why I say this is because this feature is the only way you could pretty much read the turn list during an opposing action when you're playing online against another player. You can't access the triangle menu that way when it's an opposing turn. You also can't access the ability menus because it's not your turn, right? So the start button turn cycle is really, really important. So just press start a couple more times, you don't mind, Countess. You see, it's jumping to the exact characters that were in the current order of action. So again, if things change, if there's cast time things going off, this will dynamically alter. And even again, when it's your opponent's turn, you can use this even then while you're waiting for them to finish. So that's another good way to kind of preemptively strategize while you're waiting it out, even more so when you're playing PvP with a timer, which is a typical by default thing. So while you're waiting for your opponent to complete actions, you can use the start button feature to cycle and kind of plan what to do before it's your turn, which will save you valuable time in the end. Okay, so I hope you all got that. I'm going to check in the chat real quick, see if there's any questions or any comments, anything like that, before we move on. Okay, looking good. Alright, cool. Okay, so the next thing we're going to go over is the combat forecast or the preview. So this is another really important thing. You see this anytime you take any type of action. So this is a very common thing you'll see, but I do want to highlight some really important stuff with it as well, because there's a lot of information that's being previewed to you that you don't want to like mash the A button too fast and then miss. So if you don't mind, Countess, can you bring up, let's say, I guess just go with an attack first. Just kind of bring up a preview on it. And then it's fine. We're not gonna bop them just yet. All right, so this is the preview, or you may also hear me call it forecast. Pretty much the same thing. It displays a lot of information. The main thing that it does is it displays the damage or the healing of whatever action you're doing, and if it's targeting HP or MP. So, for example, this attack is dealing 128 damage to this knight, or excuse me, rephrase that. It's 128 HP damage to this knight. Important because there are skills that do MP damage, so make sure you kind of keep an eye on that. Make sure you're using the right skills there, which you're going to aim for. It also displays the stats of both the attacker and the target. So obviously all units are at full health because we haven't actually gotten in a fight yet. Another really important thing, it also shows the target's reaction ability, which is magic counter on this knight. And what's really important about that is as you progress and learn what reaction abilities do, and a lot of them are fairly similar from vanilla, and there are some decent changes from the vanilla versions to the Tactics League mod as well. But there are a lot of similarities. So this magic counter still functions the same as it did in vanilla. It triggers against incoming magics. It does have it's a little more broad than it was, where it triggers on things like Iaido as well. So having this, and if let's say that Countess does have Iaido on her thief, if she went to try doing Iaido on an enemy knight with the magic counter, there is that chance based on that knight's bravery, which is 60 by default, that could trigger. And if that Iaido isn't successful at like killing or statusing, they've got the chance to magic counter right back. So it's really important to read this information before you commit to an action, especially when you're playing online, because you can't undo an action at all either once you've committed to it. The same goes for moving as well. So take the time. If it takes you a couple seconds, make sure to look at this preview. The hit rate is another really big thing where it says 100%. It's going to be 100% because Countess is targeting from the back, and that knight does not have any back evasion with something like a cloak, for example. So the hit rate's super important. So if it's not 100%, like always keep in mind that if it's not 100, there's always a chance it could fail, even at 90. So keep these things as a predictive measure. It doesn't mean that it's going to fail, but there is that chance. So you can gamble it. Something like a 90% is a pretty worthy gamble if it's something that you need. There's also times where it may not be really worth the gamble in the long run. So again, all this information is there to you, there for your disposal. Now there's one other really cool thing I want to highlight that's actually exclusive to the mod, and as well to even Suspicious Tweak mod. I want to highlight this for him because he also has this within his mod. It's one of the more popular, if not the most popular PSP mod currently. So if you back out the menu a couple steps and then switch over to Iaido, and then I guess pick any, let's actually go with the status one. Awesome. So if you press the square button, Notice how it's changing the portraits and the characters, right? So this is a feature to the mod, and also to Borderlands tweak. Pressing square allows you to cycle AoE targets. This allows you to get the information from multiple hits. So for example, if Countess wasn't using a status item, but she was actually going for damage with like Cherry Raiden, for example, it would actually tell you how much damage per target this Iaido does to each individual character, because those things might change. For example, if the Knight had Arcane Defense, then your Iaido is going to do less damage because Arcane Defense increases your mitigation against magic by an extra 33% alongside Shell. So 66% damage reduction is pretty big, and you can use this really awesome feature to really determine if the targets that are within the AoE are suitable for the damage you're looking for, or suitable for the healing you're looking for, or even suitable for the status you're looking for, because you also have status immunities, right, through things like abilities or gear, like the ribbon. So if you're trying to use a status skill and you just, let's just say you forgot to check the target's gear and you went for it anyways, you can use this cycle feature to get a preview of, can I hit this unit with Curse, or can I hit them with Stop, etc., etc., without having to necessarily have to keep backing up the menu every time to see who has what. It's a really awesome feature. I love it. And I really, really highly suggest that anyone playing this mod or playing the tweak mod, please use it. It's probably the most used thing that I use even when I play, because it is just that handy. So I want to highlight that because it is a very important feature. Okay, let's move on. Okay, so the last thing we're going to cover for combat basics is, how does the CT gauge work? There's a lot of different ways to manipulate it, and we're going to kind of go over that. So first thing is, if you haven't already noticed it, the CT gauge says CT 100 is right below the NP gauge, beside the thief portrait here. It's at 100 because it is the thief's turn. So how CT works is, it takes every step of the game runs off an internal clock, and this clock increments every tick by each unit's speed. So what's the speed of your thief, Countess? 14. Okay. So at 14 speed, I'm not gonna try to figure this out in the head. I'm just gonna plug in the calculator. So at 14 speed, for Countess's thief to hit 100, it takes 7 ticks. Now, I'm not gonna go into the whole internal chit-chat about ticks, because it's a really, really complicated subject, and it's outside the scope of trying to explain it. But essentially, keep in mind that the game runs on a clock, and this clock does tick worldly for all units. So every time a unit is completing an action, the clock ticks further. And so, because Countess's unit was at 14, she went third after Balthier and Merrick. And so we can actually use this. So once we get to 100, it means it's our turn, of course. And now the type of actions or move we make is really going to determine how much CT we lose. So every time you do an action or every time you do a move, you do lose CT. Because of course, if you don't, then you just get your turn right back, right? And of course, there's ways to manipulate that through stuff like Time Magic's Quick, or through Haste, or even through Slow. Those things can manipulate the CT ticks exponentially as well. So, but one thing you can do is, if you choose to move, but you don't take an action, so let's just say you do a move and then you wait, then your CT will be set to 20. So you lose 80 CT, and your CT go from 100 to 20. If you choose to take an action, which also includes re-equip or defend, then you wait, so you don't move, you just take an action. So for example, if Countess decides to attack the Knight, that's an action without moving, then your CT will then be set to 20. So again, 100 minus 80 equal 20. If you don't take any action or any movement, you just go strictly into wait, your CT goes from 100 to 40. It's a really nice jump. It's also why waiting can sometimes be really, really tactful, because being able to set you back to 40, and then that's getting back that extra 60 won't take as long, especially when you have a high-speed unit. So sometimes you can use that to manipulate the CT order of events through the turn list, or you could just simply use that to kind of like wait out an action, and maybe like instead of me doing something first, I'm gonna wait a couple more turns, and then I'll get my thief in a better position, for example. So sometimes using wait is really, really key. And of course, if you do move and if you do act, of course your CT goes from 100 to 0, naturally speaking. So then you have to reset and work your way back up per tick based on your speed, back from 0 to 100 to get your turn. So yeah, Countess, if you don't mind, can you, let me see. This might be a little difficult, but we'll try. Can you check the turn list real quick, just to make sure that you do have the next action or two? I think you do. Yes, you did. Okay. I was pretty sure, but I just wanted to double check. So, if you don't mind, can you move your thief somewhere? You don't have to take an action, just move and wait. I just want to kind of like highlight how this gauge even functions. So, once you wait, and then it's going to jump to the next unit, Strudel. Okay, so go back to your thief real quick. Okay, so you notice how it went from, now you're not going to see it like right in there, right? But what happened is it shot back down from 100 to 20, then it incremented up from 20 to 32, which is a portion of the clock tick over speed. So it's not an automatic like 20 to 20 plus 14. The game ticked her up by 12, so which means she'll get the extra 2 more than likely after the night goes. Like, just want to highlight like how that change works. So again, you can use these methods to save actions. Sometimes you don't have to take an action anyways, especially early game. Sometimes just moving is fine. Sometimes just taking an action and not moving, such as like doing an early pre-game protect shell with like Kiyomori or barrier, and your units are already like in position anyways because you just started deployment. So saving that CT can be pretty clutch, especially when your units are able to have high mobility and you're able to go from point A to point B relatively quick. Sometimes it is worth saving CT and playing it a little more smartly for the next turn ahead. Alright, well that was it for the combat basics. If anyone has any questions or anything, comments, feel free to throw them in the chat real quick. Keep an eyeball on it real quick, and then the moment you all have been waiting for, it's gonna knock this game out real quick. So, we do have a question. Doggo asks in Discord, how many different teams can you encounter in practice mode 1 and 2? Do any of them have monsters? Great question, Doggo. Okay, so I don't have FFT Patcher open, so I'm gonna be kind of running off memory here. But for practice 1 and for practice 2, there should be 5 teams for each side. So 5 teams going left or 5 teams going right, plus the 5 uniques team. So there should be a total of 11 teams per map. Again, each chance of team depends on where you come in at. So going from left or right of practice 1 or going from left or right of practice 2 will change the encounter group that you can run into. And the unique teams only are encountered if you go in from the left of practice 1 or the right of practice 2. To answer your second question, do any of them have monsters? Practice 1 practice 1 teams, rather. Practice 1 teams do not have a monster outside of the few teams that actually have Construct 8 or Serpentarius Syllabus as the main unique. They're technically monsters, but they're unique ones. For generic monsters, there are no generic monsters in Practice 1 teams. However, in Practice 2 teams, there is specifically the Luso team, or Team Luso, that actually has multiple monsters. It comes with a Behemoth, and it also comes with, I think it's one other random monster. It's a variety of different ones. It's all set for random rolls, so you can be a Behemoth plus, honestly, just about whatever. It could be a Behemoth and Chocobo, it could be a Behemoth and a Pig. It's just about anything. Then there's some limitations. It's not going to be every type of generic monster because there's a lot at the end of the day, but it's probably about a good like 15 or 16 selection there. And then it's Luso, and then a Blue Mage and a Thief, if I'm not mistaken, on that team. Other than that, I think that's the only team that actually is monster focused. And the reason why I kept it that way was so that the monster teams, they do need Protect Shell, so I try to keep them from being too dispersed within the encounter groups. Like, that team in particular should have plenty of ways to Protect Shell, so either the Thief does it through Bulwark, or the Behemoth does it through Mighty Guard. Lusa also has Mighty Guard as well. And also the Blue Mage has Garment Ring, so they can also name a song with Bard Song. So there's like a lot of different ways the AI can roll Protect Shell. And there's times it does, and there's times it doesn't. Against the AI, I can't really answer for it fully, but it's designed to kind of give you a chance to kind of see how those teams will interact against monster opponents. But yeah, appreciate the question. Right. One more second. Just want to see if there's anything else popped up before we move on. And Countess, I'll tell you what, if you want to go ahead and start, just for a second time, by all means, light it up. If you don't mind, before you fully commit to the units, if you don't mind, can you just kind of do a brief status screen, kind of show like what you're working with, or even a unit list, either or. All right, so we got the dual Thief's Knife with the Circlet, Minerva Bustier, and the Thief's Glove. A very solid combo, one of my favorite setups. Basically, he has the chance to randomly steal per strike with the Thief's Knife. The Thief's Gloves allows your steal, or even the Thief's Knife steal, to bypass Safeguard, which is really awesome, especially going up against Dragoon or any sword skill reliant unit. Then Minerva Bustier is really great at elemental mitigation, and Circlet gives you really amazing stats of Protect Shell and Regen. So pretty solid stuff. Okay, what kind of chems we got? Strudel with the Raza Geffy. Equip all armor. Okay, run a heavy armor chemist. Okay, 6'10", pretty solid. Patrol, Protect Shell, Close Helm for an extra move. That's a lot of move for a chemist. 7 move with an 8 range gun, 15 effective range. You can get from any location just about with aim too, so aim scales with just about every aim ability outside of Sonic Boom. Scales with your weapon range, so yeah, you can really do just about whatever you need at any moment. I dig it. Alright, what does Pi got? Pi the Knight. The Durandals for the Equipped Faith, which increases the effectiveness of your white magics. Genji Helm for some nice HP MP buffer and a +1 power magic. Sage Robe for all elemental mitigation and half. And Tyna Ridge for Protect Shell and some nice stats as well. And a Boost Holy as well, so that gives you... I think the Durandal has Boost Holy? No, that's Excalibur. So Tyna Ridge would actually boost the Saint Cross from Arts of War and the Holy from White Magics. Okay, I dig it. Alright, and then Tart has Veil of Wii, so that's boost elements, or boost all elements except for Holy and Dark. Red Hood and White Robe, so those two combined gives you initial Shell and initial Protect. Red Hood gives you an extra speed, and White Robe gives you primary elements, mitigation for halving damage there, so pretty solid setup there. And then the Pearl Rouge gives you boost ice and boost water, gives you stop and silence immunity. Silence immunity is really important for a caster. Gives Regen as well. And you got the Mystic Arts on the back bar, Resilience for halving all damage while you're casting, and boost the damage with Arcane Strength. Pretty solid. And finally, Lady Agrius, Save the Queen with the Reverie Shield. So the only reason why we've got to Save the Queen and Reverie Shield here is thanks to Monkey Grip. Otherwise, Save the Queen is forced two-handed. Save the Queen is Holding Element and gives you Protect Shell and Regen. Reverie gives you all elemental mitigation in half. Ribbon gives you all status coverage except for Chicken and Curse. Grand Armor gives you Regen, and Bravely Armor gives you an additional speed and then 10 Bravery at the end of Agrius' turn. And also that I want to highlight that Dexterity, because that Dexterity on her 25 class evasion is really nice. Dexterity gives you, it uses your class evasion stat and treats it as for all sides physical evasion. So it means that Agrius has a 25% physical evasion around the front, back, and sides. really nice stuff, especially when going up against things like bows and things of that nature, or anything that scales with physical evasion. So, pretty nice stuff, and the back bar items is always nice. All right, not to hold you up, go ahead and let it rip. But yeah, this is I'm actually kind of glad that you got the unique encounter team. In all honesty, kind of just show different types of skills that each of these uniques have. There's a lot of different changes here and there with the uniques that have been going on within the mod's history. A lot of them function pretty similar, but again, there's some pretty decent changes. So, like Alma, she's got that extra arcane defense and defense boost, and then she's got protect shell, so she's taking 66% less damage from both spectrums, which is really nice. She also has charm immunity too, which can be really nice going up against entice or persuasive, which is a support ability that orators have, which guarantees charm if that attack that they do will put them into critical. What was that? Oh, it was aim vitals. Okay. And then she has a lot of really amazing things in her own skill set through Holy Magics. Aegis is like probably the best, like, just single target skills hands down for support, just because it gives you all your buffs. It's protect, shell, regen, haste, and re-raise. The only thing you don't get is invisible out of all that, but like, that's one of the strongest things you can give a unit. And it's a pretty fast cast too, so being able to give a single target unit all these sources of buffs at once is just really nice. Let's see, we're going on mute for just a moment. Okay, I'm back. Apologies. This is the White Knight setup, where you're using Durandal to get Faith through your Knight Sword, and then running like white magics in the secondary. It's a pretty solid setup. It allows you to not only have the base bulk of a Knight, so it can sustain a decent bit of damage in general, but also being able to kind of be able to cast those like supportive heals if you need through like the cure spells, or using Asuna to break someone out of status. It's just really nice setup. And you don't even have to use white magic every time either. It's just like, it's just really nice to have, and it's also really potent because of that Faith from the Randall. Okay, concerned with some CT. We're saying earlier, moving and waiting, puts your CT back to 20, so that gives you a nice little hit start based on your base move, or base speed. So especially for units that are slower, I'm not sure what the speed on what the Agrius was, but that is still important because that allows you to retain our turn faster in the future. Especially for units that are slower, and even more so if they don't have haste. AI is slowly creeping in. Looks like Merrick's about to do some work here. Ooh, that was pretty nasty. He got a crit strike on the second one. He was able to strike at range like that because of the kunai. The kunai is a free-range ninja blade. But how you can get that to work is if you put that in your main hand, in the right hand, the second weapon scales with that range. Second, so that means that nice. So that means that the second weapon strike actually has a range of 3, whereas the normal will have a range of 1. So that works for anything that's dual wieldable, and as long as you put the higher ranged weapon in the main hand, then it will work. Jim is coming in clutch. Best medic job in the game. Don't sleep on the range throw items. It's so good, especially like in situations where you're able to actually be in range of a unit without having to move. Ooh, it's Crit City here. Even though it is instacast, again, sometimes it's important just to kind of take a look at the turn list, and using that ability list. CT order is also really good, especially when it's your turn anyways. And it is technically faster to get to than having to back out the menu and pressing triangle and then pressing another button to then get to the turn list. So if you are on your turn, it's definitely a smoother operation to go that route. It's not much faster, but it is faster. Like, it saves you an extra second. Nice play there, Countess. Using Word Cry to get rid of that Protect Shell, especially on a unit that already has a lot of mitigation with that innate Arcane Defense and Defense boost. It does open her up to fully unmitigated damage. Well, mitigated to a degree. It's still mitigated because of the innate, but keeping in mind that she does have that re-raise too, so if you do get the kill, then she does get right back up. She'll consume the re-raise, but she'll be able to still react, and the AI is notorious for just making sure that if it gets the chance, it'll just do another Aegis. It can be a little annoying to deal with sometimes. But it also means that you may have to change your tactic up and how you want to approach that. Hopefully we get the stop chance here. 25% chance to land it. Oh, there you go. Called it. Very nice. Give you a little bit of breathing room there. That Merrick getting another action. Oh, okay. So the AI is like, okay, you roll stop. I one up you and give you a stop too. Now because of that, because of the Durandal, that did guarantee that stop too, because it is faith versus faith at that point. Alma doesn't have, well, this Alma technically doesn't have like full faith, but her base faith is so high that it's pretty much faith versus faith, so like she's guaranteed to land the stop, so it's going to kind of cripple Countess a little bit there too. But she does have 2 item users, so they're able to get her out of there with Adrenaline. Oh man. Okay, so we're going for the Masamune. Charm doesn't last that long in the mod than it does in the original game, but it's relatively like 2 of that unit's actions, as long as there's most of the units still alive on the board. But still, 2 actions of a unit that you no longer can control can be crippling as well. So thankfully that was one of the more like lax moves I think I've seen the AI make there. It kind of hurts the Knight's ability to use white magics on those units, but the Knight's kind of like temporarily out of play anyways because of stop. It's just one of those things that still, at the end of the day, like, creates more disruption for your team. I think you're looking for adrenaline. I thought you were trying to go for the stop. Yeah. Okay, so now we're seeing that Protect Shell fall off on all the initial Protect Shell units. Anyone that had the Protect Shell source from gear is now losing that debuff, so or buff. So they all relatively fall at the same time if everyone was using the same exact method. Which is why we're seeing it fall off on every other unit now. Wow, that almost just being straight up rude. She does not like that knight. Oof. That was a boosted invis attack with the tactical shift. So that's the reason why Beowulf was able to move up, get the kill, and then move away. The innate tactical shift in his Templar job, anytime he gets a kill with a regular attack, then he's able to remove again, which is why he's able to do that. We don't see a lot of play with people utilizing that part of his innate as much. But it's definitely handy if you build him more for like heavy hit and attack stuff. And even if he can like run in and get a kill, being able to like run in and get a kill and then like reposition later, or another cool technique you can do with it is run in and get a kill and then wait, because when you wait, the CT that you would have lost is actually restored to you. So that means that you're actually reset back to 20 CT instead of 0. So keep that in mind. Little pro tip there. And that applies for not just Beowulf having been on Templar, but that applies with using the tactical shift movement skill as well. So if you like attacking, just like doing like really hard hit normal attacks, and normal attacks are pretty hard hit in the mod. They kind of have to be to incentivize being able like to actually like want to build for them. So if you go that route, then like tactical shift is definitely a really good option for that type of stuff. Thankfully the curse didn't land there, and thankfully you got your reaction though. It was all good on your end. Yeah, it's definitely locking you down though. I mean, Agris is really the only usable unit you have right now. The Thief is still charmed. Light being stopped doesn't help. Thankfully, Agris has items so she can get a Phoenix down off or an Adrenaline, depending on how the CT is looking on your knight. The CT is frozen on that knight because she is stopped. Maybe it is like towards the 100 mark, but we'll see. Bro, what? I'm sorry, Gallus. You give some unfortunate crits this unit. And you got the curse? Oh gosh, that's gross, man. Hey, sometimes it'd be like that though. Like, it's unfortunate, but I'm kind of glad we're kind of seeing this stuff. And the reason why I say that is because don't exclude the AI because you're playing against the AI. Like, AI is a little smarter than the mod. Not much smarter, but it is a little smarter. So like, these teams can be tough to encounter, even more so because you are fighting the special encounter team. Like, going up against 5 uniques when you're only normally going against 1. Did it really just try to cast? That's funny. Okay, if it lands this, then this is rigged. 4%. Okay, alright, I honestly thought I did for a second. But that's okay. At the end of the day, this was only to showcase how practice mode maps work. It's not a win or lose scenario. I appreciate taking the time to get your team set up for this, Countess. And again, the special encounter teams can be tough. Like, especially when you're coming into the mod and learn the ropes, and you run against this team, especially like early, like in the early. Okay, coming into the mod in the early days, it can be a pretty hard task to beat. Hey Eric, how's it going? Appreciate you joining the stream for the evening. What was she charging, Giannis? Was that Aegis? Usually is, but okay. So Aegis is 40 MP. I think you can get away with it. Is that 130? Yeah, just barely. But hey, it's enough. Advent of Might is a new skill. It's a new Iaido skill that gives you 4 bravery. And Alfie showed it earlier, but I just want to highlight that. Really nice early game cast, especially if you're not able to interact with your opponent early on. Get an extra 4 brave, and it does help with your reaction chances. So it's Faith on Faith with 340 there. Dude, that almost is just rude. You know, honestly, I'm gonna like it kind of reminds me of some of the silly shenanigans you would do with your Alma. GG, nice try. It looks like it can be tough. Trying to go against a unique team, especially like if you're unprepared. So, salutes in the chat. Appreciate you taking the time to kind of show how that works real quick. And that was the main thing, was showcasing the combat basic stuff, going over the deployment, and then going over using the turn list and the 3 different ways you can get to the turn list, going over the CT or the previewing, like the information that you get through preview, and also using the square button preview cycling, which I highly recommend using anytime you're using any type of AoE skills within the mod, because it is just so nice to be able to get that information without having to go through every option possible of trying to figure out if something's going to hit or not. So super cool stuff there. And then finally, how the CT works, and if you use a move and wait, or if you use an act and wait, your CT goes down to 20 instead of 0. If you do a move and an act, it goes to 0. Or if you just wait, it goes to 40. Using that stuff to tactfully gain the next turn faster, so you can kind of counterplay ahead of what's about to happen. So these tips are really important stuff. These tips apply to all the campaign as well. So if you're playing the original Final Fantasy Tactics, like either PSX, Borderlands, or even Evil's Chronicles, everything that I mentioned other than the preview cycling with the square button is in those games. So being able to check these things is super important. I'm not sure about the start button thing, start button turn list. I'm not really sure if that's the thing in the PSX version, but I know it's definitely a thing in Borderlands. I would like to say it's probably a thing in PSX as well, but don't quote me on that one specifically. But either way, use these tips to plan ahead, figure out where you're going to go with the match, either against the AI or against another player, and they will help carry you to the path to victory. Even if you don't win, it's just these are things that are really, really important stuff to know in the future. So, but yeah, we'll go ahead and wrap this evening up. If anyone has any comments or questions like to throw out there real quick, feel free to mention it. Countess, appreciate you taking the time to get stuff set up. Always a pleasure working with you. And also for those that are watching, especially newcomers that are interested in joining the Tactics League mod, Countess is the person to head up if you are interested in doing some academy style training. We do actually have a whole program in our Discord, and this is actually what this Academy Live is about, is taking the stuff that we have in text format in the Discord and doing a audio video on that instead, and kind of going over some more stuff that isn't necessarily always highlighted in the Discord stuff. So if you're more of a listener to some of the things versus a reader, this Academy Live is probably the better route. If you don't mind reading, then the Discord is pretty close to what we go over here. But either way, she's a really great resource to reach out to if you are interested to wanting to learn more about the mod and getting set up in some training style scenarios. Like, she has some teams that are in different difficulties. She's got her novice team, you got an intermediate, and you got your your final. I'm not entirely sure how she has that one labeled, but it's like the final team, where she has different varying strengths of teams that you can play against. So she can kind of give you some pointers and stuff on the way as you're working through and help you become a better tactics player. Perfect. Novice, intermediate, and advanced. Thank you. I don't know why I wouldn't have thought of advanced, but I appreciate you. Yeah, she's got 3 different level teams that you can play against if you're interested in learning. Again, a real good way to get into the mod is to go the academy route, and we have a whole section of things to learn and stuff. It takes some time. You don't have to do everything all at once. Honestly, I don't really recommend anyone do all of it all at once. It's a lot to take in anyways. So maybe doing like 1 a day or something like that. Maybe a couple hours in between, whatever your learning pace is. Like, it is designed to be like in small sections. So, learn a little bit here. If you have questions, feel free to reach out to us. If you want to get in that training program that Countess has, reach out to her. I know she has a couple stipulations. I think one big one is that you've gone through the academy courses first, which is fair because some of the stuff that you do with her is kind of dependent on you having that stuff already learned. So make sure you do the academy stuff and then reach out to her if you really want to go forward. Let me see. She is messaging in the chat, so I just want to make sure that I didn't say anything wrong. But yeah, while she's responding real quick, we have a lot of resources in the Discord. There's a decent bit on the website as well at tacticsleague.com. But a lot of the information is in the Discord, so for anyone that's watching on YouTube, especially if you're interested in joining the Tactics League mod and learning more about it, by all means, definitely join the server. Discord server, there's plenty of links and means to get there. If for some reason you can't find it or anything like that, feel free to message me either through comments or whatnot. I'll respond promptly and help you out there. But plenty of resources for that type of stuff as well. And even for those that are viewing in Discord, again, a lot of resources, Academy, Knowledge. Those channels have a lot of information there. Even the glossary has a lot of information of some stuff we've already gone over. So a lot of stuff to kind of get you on board. It's a lot. I get it. I've been at this mod now for several years, so I know it's a decent bit of changes now from the original game. But in the same spectrum, we have a lot of things to help get you on track to figuring out some of those things that have been changed. And a lot of it is just kind of taking that first step. Like, I want to learn this stuff. It's a lot, but we have it in small sections for you to learn, so you're not having to try to get everything at once. And that's really the most important part, because this isn't supposed to be like, oh, I want to get into Tactics League mod, but it's like, it's so many things to learn. Like, I'm not trying to do a whole, graduation program. I get that. You want to play the game at the end of the day. But we do have a lot of resources to help you get to where you want to be, depending on how you want to go about it. Let me throw this in the mention this real quick for her. She says the bare minimum requirement for her training program is having read the material. So the material being the academy courses that we have in the Discord, having at least one standard team made, ready to go, and then of course reaching out to her. She wants to emphasize that it does not have to be a top-notch team. I definitely agree. Please don't come in thinking you're making the best thing ever since sliced bread. There's a lot of different approaches and a lot of different ways to approach things within the mod. It's vastly more broad than the original game, so there's not really a strict meta or a strict like means of get to the best thing ever. So a lot of things do work, I promise you. So it just kind of depends on how you learn it, and how you play, and how you use it mostly. But if you what she's getting is, at the end of the day, it doesn't have to be anything big. Come up with something that's creative or something that you know from the original game that you're trying to translate into the mod, and you can go from there. If you do want to become a full-time student for her training program, this can also be discussed, and where she will offer you more personal help and even do scheduled fights with you that fits the best time, which is really awesome because everyone's schedule is different, but she is willing to work around your schedule and do scheduled fights if you're wanting to do that stuff. So really awesome stuff there, Count. So I really appreciate you putting that effort out there for people, giving everyone that opportunity if they're wanting to get into the program, that you can accommodate for them. It's probably the best thing. So that's really awesome. So if you do want to join her program, again, I just want to highlight, make sure you've done the academy courses. Make sure you have a team, Tactics League, save data based team, and then reach out to her. Doesn't gotta be anything big, but have those things ready, and then you can reach out to her, and she can go from there basically. And then she'll work with you to get moving forward. So yeah, awesome. Love to see it. That's what it's all about. That's a part of the big thing that we're doing here at Academy Live, is just getting the information out there and helping new players mostly, but even some intermediate players with new knowledge and tips to help you with playing tactics, PvP at the end of the day, because this is a community. So the more people we can get in, the more people that can get involved, the better the community is, and the more games, like ongoing games, are going as well, the more chances of having like competitions and things like that going on. Like, it's just a win-win. The more people can get involved. So we are an open door. Make sure to reach out. Alright, and with all that being said, we're gonna go ahead and conclude this evening. Thank you all viewers in Discord and on YouTube for joining tonight's stream, where we covered the practice mode maps, Practice 1 and Practice 2, as well as going over some fundamental combat basics that are usable either offline or even online. Thank you, Giannis, for working with me once again to make sure we get this course and making it a success, so thank you. And one more time, if anyone needs to reach out or have any questions, feel free to comment on this video or message me on Discord, or if you're in the Tactics League Discord, or just throw it in general chat. Whatever question you have about the mod, either I or someone will reach out to you. So, you all have a lovely evening, and I will catch you all for Course 4. Have a good one.